ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 4 of Discussions with Dazerin. I am, of course, Dazerin, and joined with me today is none other than one of the most proficient Rocket League casters in the scene. If you ask Doomsy, it's probably the best caster in the world. Mega Shogun. Shogun, welcome to Discussions. How you doing tonight?
Well, Doomsy has bad opinions, but don't we all about certain things in life? Thank you very much, by the way, for the very nice intro. I'm not used to people saying nice things about me, so you caught me off guard there.
Oh, well, no, seriously though, welcome. Uh, oh man, I don't even know where to start. Basically, like we look at you guys from like an outsider's in perspective. One of the best play-by-play casters from a while, but we'll get into that. We'll get for those just watching, we're gonna talk about the types of Rocket League casters out there to give people a little bit of background. We'll also talk about the types of styles that commentators like me and Shogun are, or the styles that we use, and styles that we've seen kind of change back and forth. But for those who have seen Shogun but don't really know too much about them, or about him, I'm sorry. Shogun, can you kind of give us a little like insight on your Rocket League background?
All right, so I am Mega Shogun. My background was that I was a prequel player. Played that for a very long time. And then once Rocket League came over, just sort of said to myself, I took battle cards way too seriously. I'm not going to take this one seriously. Instead, I'm going to look to do something else for the scene. And that something else ended up being commentary after trying a couple of different things out.
Okay, so like, um, to kind of give again that commentary background.
Mm-hmm.
There's four types of commentators. Well, I won't say commentators in general, but there's like four types of roles taken when you are in a talent position in broadcasting. Rocket League, just to be in specific. For like major events, there's always a host. That's the role that Axotos normally plays. We'll kind of like match names from RLCS guys to roles here to kind of give like the viewer a better description. You got the analyst desk, which is usually for the past season, Gibbs and James Bots roles, and then we'll have play-by-play commentators, which are usually you or Wavepunk, and then analysts and color shoutcasters, Carpet, Lawler, etc. So that's just
Yeah.
to give the audience just a general like background of like
It's
where that's at.
it's amazing how many people still don't know those roles. Despite like watching it week in and week out, like they'll
Yeah.
just say, "Oh, well, like you, this guy does this." I'm just like, he doesn't. I don't know where you got that from, but he doesn't. So yeah, thank you very much for just sort of clarifying that for those people out there that don't know.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, again, we talk about you being a play-by-play commentator, but you originally started off as a color commentator and then swapped over to play-by-play. Like, what caused you to make that change?
So when I originally came in, I started playing. With that SRBC experience, I was still pretty good at the game. So when I transitioned over to commentary, Cloud Fuel was sort of giving me direction.
Mm.
And he said, right, well, you're coming in at the time as one of the better, you know, former players that we have, trying to make that transition over. So we thought, all right, knowledge would probably be better off suited to the color role. But the color role at the time was very different to how we have it now. The color role back then was very much the play-by-play talks, and the play-by-play talks, and the play-by-play talks, and a goal will go in, and then the color gets to talk over the goal replay, and then the play-by-play talks. So I did that for a very long time, and inevitably just thought to myself, this is not really getting me anywhere and not really getting the scene anywhere. So I said to Cloud, look, I understand why you put me in this role, but I don't want to be here anymore. I
Mm.
want you to move me, at least give me a shot for a tournament or two at doing play-by-play, see what I can do. And I did a couple of Gfinities in play-by-play, decided that the energy I was bringing was pretty good. And just sort of took it from there. So that was my reasoning for moving out, because it was a very useless role at the time I did it.
Right. Yeah, no, I can understand that as a person who's literally done color commentary for their entire year and a half of Rocket League or casting. There's not, especially when starting out, there was always just that real okay, just wait for the right opportunity to happen. And stuff like that. So I can understand, especially if you're coming from your position to where you're like, you're again the star vet, really good at the game. You know what you're talking about, and you want to be able to explain that to the audience. That's something that you would want to do at almost any opportunity you can, and then as well just being doing the play-by-play role. It gives you an opportunity to just go full blast all the way. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a change I can see. But I want to actually just again go and talk about the casting styles. That
Yeah.
again, we talked about it. You mentioned it briefly where you were talking about like back then it was just play-by-play talks, a goal scored, and then the color guy comes in and says, "Oh, this happened," and then he has to do it really short before the kickoff, and then the play-by-play takes over and speaks for a longer amount of time. But yeah, that's if we just look at like a standard format just for commentating Rocket League in general, like the play-by-play calls the plays. He might pass it off one or two times during the play to the color guy to provide a brief analysis. You guys will hear like cues if you guys pay attention to broadcast for like RLCS or any tournament where a play-by-play guy will say something like, "Oh, they seem to be doing a lot, Daz, but what more could they be doing?" And then that cues me to come in, who would be the color guy, and I kind of like provide a little bit of insight and analysis to what I see. And that's usually like the standard format. If a goal scored, again, the color guy comes in and he'll explain the goal. He basically has like a short amount of time until the kickoff goes to like really sum up what happened, what went wrong, or what went right with a certain team, and then the play-by-play will start up again.
Yeah.
So that's been what we've been doing for a while. Like, what do you think about that?
I believe that when done right, play-by-play and color is still a very good way of going about commentary because it is by design. It's worked in traditional sports, it's worked in other esports. So for us to start building our commentary styles, having it that way is very smart. Especially when, I mean, we'll talk about other styles later on. Some of the other styles require a lot of intimate knowledge in terms of your other commentator.
Right.
So for us, when we're constantly working with different people all the time, having that structure there where I can just say, right, I'm doing this, you're doing that, can be really useful. And you bring up there about play-by-play just sort of leading off at times. And we as play-by-play, we get criticized very often for talking too much. We're talking when nothing's really going on, when we need to be inviting the color commentator in. There are a lot of times where we do. If you are listening to the broadcast, you'll hear like, I'll be talking, I'll say the ball's going up there, and it's not quite going to go in, and they play the ball away. 1, 2, 3. All right, well, he's not talking. I've got to continue here.
Yeah.
There's that little pause there, and I'm not quite doing it. I'm doing it A for pacing, and B because I want to see if my guy's got anything to talk about. If he doesn't, right, I'll keep going. So there are like some complaints out there when it comes to play-by-play as a role. It's just like, yeah, it's exactly what I can see. Cool. So that's kind of what it's supposed to be. So when we get into those stages where everything's really hype and going a million miles an hour, do you want me explaining what's happened to you, or do you want to just live in that moment? Now, when the game's a little bit more dead, absolutely. That is probably the biggest test for a play-by-play, is how good they are in terms of versatility. Because when a game is dead, let's just say either nothing is happening or it's a 6-0, you can't really do play-by-play. There's no point me just keep going on and on and on and on and on when there's no need to. So a good play-by-play then needs to be able to not only bring in yourself or whoever you're working with, but they need to be able to interact. There's no point me queuing you up to say something, letting you talk for 2 or 3 sentences, and then just going, all right, cool. Because you're going to hand it back to me, and the game is still 6-0.
Yep.
You can't talk forever. So there has to be that ability to have that dialogue there, and that's when commentary gets a lot more difficult because you need to be able to have a conversation about the game,
Yeah.
or if you're good enough to do it, you move it elsewhere. So whilst we can break it down to just play-by-play and just analysis, there is a lot of nuance and a lot of depth there. And most of it is learned just by hitting certain situations. You just go, okay, how do I react to this?
Right. Yeah. And it'll lead into what we're gonna talk about next, which is like experimenting or different styles that I've seen casters experiment with. But like, just again, you've given like a great like in-depth explanation of like, you know, the differences between like starting off play-by-play and then moving forward into like what makes the difference between someone who knows the standard on how to do play-by-play and then someone who can really be more versatile with it. I feel like for a color commentator standpoint, just from the fact that I was just the other day just helping someone learn how to cast, and they were like trying to see which one they wanted to do. It's a lot. Well, one, I can't really say which one is like, because some people say like which one's better than the other. That's not really something that I can like say that one is specifically better than. I think it's really just a personal preference. So in terms of like analysis, is really just our color just making sure that you know when to jump in, when to recognize when like Shogun's leaving that space open for you, and then knowing, okay, I have to come in here and fill in this space. That's something that happens over time, but also just like what you say in that time frame. If which means even though like you're going on like rap god mode talking about every single touch, if that's like your style, then I have to make sure that I'm also listening to all of that, paying attention to what's going on, and then being able to come in on time to make a valid point based off what you say.
Well, an interesting thing about that, and it's something that we've tried introducing recently, is the color can still be very useful whilst, let's just say, 20 seconds remaining. I've pretty much, got to just say to myself, I have to go in now. This is the final bit. I can't hand it off to the color. I'm going to go in for the next 20 seconds and just really try and get everyone to feel the moment. The color can still be useful in that situation. Let's say I'm going really fast. I'm getting in there. I'm getting really hyped. Here's where people like Lawler and Carpet really separate themselves. Because, okay, I'm going in there. I'm saying exactly what's going on. But the color, he could get so much extra little detail in there. He could be making like little noises whenever the goal is almost going in. Let's just say... So well. Exactly. Like, he's one of the reasons why I brought that up. Let's say there's 30 seconds remaining in a match. There is 1 goal difference. So 2-1, G2 is winning against, let's say, NRG. There's 20 seconds remaining. I'm going full Rap God. If that color can turn around and just start counting down the time, so I'm going in, and all I hear from the color in the background is 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds. Like, it's not going to distract from what's happening.
Right.
So color can do a lot without having to say almost anything in those sort of situations. But it's getting to that moment where you know that you can sort of not be as nervous about doing that is very difficult. And it's very difficult for online casters out there because you can't really do that online because Skype or whatever you're using is just going to completely screw up the sound of that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I can see that. But yeah, it's also one of those things that also comes with comfortability, like you said, just being able to like
I completely derailed you. I'm sorry.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine. It is just one of those things where, like, once you're comfortable with the situation, and especially when you're comfortable with your like play-by-play commentator, like there's certain things I'll do with commentator like Stacks that I probably won't do with another one like Jorby or Cheese, because they although they are doing the same thing, like they're all doing play-by-play, they all do it in their own specific way. And I know, like, if I'm casting a game with with Jorby. Jorby's hype. All he does is just hype up the plays. So I know that I want to bring that same amount of hype. I also want to be able to control the crowd with the pace. Like when he brings it off to me, I can hype it up, and then I can also bring it back down. If I'm doing it with Stacks. Stacks likes to make a lot of witty remarks. I have to kind of keep an eye out on that. Oh man, I remember when we used to first do that. There were times where he would make jokes and it would fly right over my head, and I would go back and look at the VOD, and I was like, oh, I missed that. Yikes. But nowadays it's just like, now we just like, he can hear me laugh, and it just like really mellows out the mood, and we're starting to get comfortable and stuff like that. So being comfortable with your co-commentator really helps build up the style, or builds up the chemistry, and then kind of changes the style. And that's going to go into what we're talking about next, where again, I've seen other casters experiment with different styles where things are more conversational, and like the play-by-play and the analysis is almost split between the two commentators. Like what do you think about that?
So for this one, I'm going to give the credit to me and Johnny Boy as sort of the first ones that tried it. And that was when we first came in to do, I believe it was the very first 12 Titans. We sort of decided, look, play-by-play and analysis is probably not the best thing for a ones style tournament. The style itself is very good, yet very difficult to pull off, because you have to keep everything very short and very clean. It has to be like 1 or 2 sentences before you pass it back off, not 2 or 3 sentences. I mean, not 2 or 3 sentences, 2 or 3 paragraphs of what you're saying. So I believe it's a very good format and something that we'll be looking more and more into in the future. But it's very difficult to pull off for a myriad of reasons. Firstly being, you need to know the personality. Yeah. I need to be able to talk to this guy like we're both sitting on a couch, you know, cracking a few drinks down us and just talking about the game. As if no one else is around. The other problem with that, and it's a problem that you actually still see with play-by-play and color, but it becomes really obvious for this one, is that person you're working with needs to have a lot of game knowledge. Because I can't have a conversation with someone about a game that they don't know about. I can't banter about little nitty-gritty things. You know, I can't say that this player is not very good at this, trying to make it nice and subtle, and my color commentator just goes, yeah, okay, cool. I didn't quite get it. So it's hard. It's definitely difficult to pull off. I don't feel... I feel like if a commentator learnt it with one person, that's probably the only person they're going to pull off that style with. Because at that point, that is a duo.
Yeah.
And unless they are working together a lot, that duo will not be very good. So I think there's a future in it, but there's only going to be a future in it once we start pairing people off and saying those people are going to work together all the time, which terrifies me because half my work is done in Europe and the other half is done in North America. And I'm just like, I never work with the same people over and over again.
Yeah. I was gonna follow it up with like, what do you think about casting duos? Me personally, I like the idea of casting duos. Well, I've always liked the idea ever since the whole Leaf and Lawler thing, because they just worked so well together. But there have also been, I remember I made a tweet a while back where I was talking about what's your like favorite casting duos, and it got some mixed responses. Some people actually listed like, you know, their casting pairs that they like a lot, but a lot of people were just like, well, I don't know if we're really in a time where, you know, duos are a thing. And I just want to like get your thoughts on like whether or not you think like they can be a thing, or even if they should be a thing.
I'm gonna throw him under the bus here. I'm furious with Gregan because Gregan decided to go into coaching before DreamHack happened, and we had a very good response to us as a duo. And I was looking at him just going, me and you, buddy, for the next few years, forever and ever, which won't be happening at all. So there was the possibility there. But for the way everything is right now, it would be very difficult to pull off a duo. Lola, I do see you in chat. That's a bromance, buddy. But come on, man. That was a special weekend we had.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, they're definitely. It's weird because I've made friends with a lot of casters who I've never commentated with, and we'll always have that talk. Man, if we ever commentate together, it'd be so fun. Or we might come together for like a tournament or two, and we'll be like, wow, that was really good. Yeah, we should do it more. And then we'll never do it for like 3 months. But it's always an interesting conversation to bring up. I think as time moves on, both the whole duo discussion and the conversational commentary will both be something that probably we'll see develop a little bit more. Again, I fully agree on what you mean in terms of like both commentators need to basically be looking at the same game and need to be knowing basically each other.
Yeah.
It involves extensive amount of game knowledge and then an extensive amount of chemistry as well between the two for that to be successful. And I think people will start to really catch on. I know a lot of guys in the community scene have been experimenting with that. So it's really good to see like guys who are up and coming really start to like also embrace that method and start to work out on it even in the community cast. Because honestly, that like, and this is for like community casters that who are like actually like checking this out, like those tournaments are like such a great way to like develop and really hone your skills.
I haven't seen on here, but I do want to at some point today just sort of take a moment to speak to community casters as sort of like a way of just going, look, here's where I am. I've sort of been the ringer a little bit. I don't know everything, but here's what I do know. And just sort of put that info out there.
Yeah, we got you.
But we'll get to that later on, I suppose.
You are correct, my guy. But so yeah, we've seen the conversation style. Do you know about any others? And it doesn't really necessarily have to be related to like anything you've seen in the Rocket League scene. It could be from other games, but or even sports in general. But like, is there anything that you've seen from watching just anything that you say, this might work well if it was put in a Rocket League broadcast?
I'm a huge fan of fighting games, and watching the fighting game broadcasting style is very interesting because we are very used to, and we even bring it up when we were talking about, both commentators doing the exact same roles. Fighting games doesn't really have that. It's just two dudes sitting there, and they are talking about this video game, and half of it is nonsensical depending on which fighting game you're watching. Yipes is probably one of my favorites outside of Rocket League in terms of commentators, just because he's got so much energy. And if every time someone hit the ball went, oh, ow, boop, boop, people would want me fired. But when he does it, he's got like this innate charisma, where he can do that. He can get away with that. And that's not a criticism at all, because that just means he's really good and made that his style, where they can just talk pretty much as if no one's listening to them and make it sound really good. So I'm a fan of that style. I don't know if it'll transition well. I would like to try it. Probably not in front of an RLCS or a major crowd, but that would be fun.
Yeah.
Let's put it like that. I would like that for maybe a Liquor League or something.
Yeah. And speaking of Liquor League, I guess that's technically that's another style
different
too.
casting style. I mean, you've got it from Liquor League, and you've heard it from Gold Rush. James would have my head if I forgot what that was. Which is not really commentary at all, is it? It's just, we're having fun. And I feel like that's a recurring theme when we talk here is, what do I like most? I like it when people are having fun. I don't want people that I'm listening to on a broadcast sound like they're being forced to sit through it. I want people to be really passionate and just sort of say what they want to say about the game we are watching. And whatever they have to say about it, as long as they care, I will care.
Exactly. No, I resonate with that a lot. Just the fact that, I mean, I pop in and out from community orgs from time to time and just kind of like talk to the guys who are just like running the show, and they'll always tell me about their casters. and it's always you. I feel like there's a couple of types. Um, the ones that are actually interested in commentating, and some of them, a little bit nervous, but really just like, yeah, I want to see if I can do it, that one. And then there's the ones that see commentators and they're like, oh, they look really nice, oh, they get paid to talk about Rocket League, I want to get paid to talk about Rocket League, let me try to do this. Oh, I'm doing this community tournament, hey, let me ask my TO, how many more streams do I have to do before I can do RLCS? And that stuff, that kind of really, it grinds my gears just a little bit. I mean, to the point, because it's just like a lot of guys dating back to when this thing started did it for a couple of reasons. Because it was fun. They really enjoyed just getting in front of an audience and really telling people about, like, just talking about the game, talking about the players, whether or not they knew them, expressing that. And then it was also, again, there was a brief period where there were just like no commentators for tournaments, and people were stepped up and they filled those roles. I mean, volunteer work has kind of been like the basis. Like, again, I remember I did volunteer work until like when I first got paid for doing Rocket League cast, and I didn't even know. Like, I was doing it for D-Pants and Hanzo for a Mad City thing, and I just did it because, like, it was local. It was in Chicago. It was a LAN. I was like, this is gonna be the shit. Like, I really want to make this. I really want to make this like, do just as good of a job as I possibly could. And this had been after the Midwest LAN where we had worked with Leaf and Lawler. But so I was really like on my own 2 feet here, and I just made sure I did the best job possible, and we did a pretty solid job, and we were all happy with the outcome, and that's all I needed. Then I get like a email from Hanzo, and then I get it comes with a little card. It's like, thank you for all your hard work, and then and then my PayPal gets an email like, hey, you've been paid. I'm like, huh? So, and it was just a really emotional moment for me.
Yes.
Because at that time, like, I just, like, I mean, if that's one way to, like, definitely, like, show appreciation to someone, like, pay them and don't even tell them. And then on top of that, like, I had worked so hard just out of, like, passion, and it all came out of nowhere. So, like, it was a good experience, and I feel like once, oh man, I kind of went on a tangent and almost lost my point, but I got it.
Caught it. There we are. Back in the game.
Once, like, when you talk to these guys and they want to develop and they want to improve to get better, again, it's all about having fun and having that passion and really being able to bring that and put that on the screen in front of everybody. And then after you do that, and after you're comfortable and you enjoy what you do, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a bit of a stigma at times regarding people that want to get paid for this as a job or as any sort of thing. Now, if you are talented at something, if you know you are good at something, by all means, you should be asking for money for it. That is how most industry works. There is a difference, however, between getting what you are owed and being entitled without the talent to go along with it. And that's the key difference in all of this, is that if you are expecting to come into Rocket League, not put the effort in, not care about the game, not look and research about the teams, and not try and improve yourself as a broadcaster, I don't care if you've done it for 6 months or 2 years, you're not getting paid for this. Sure. And it's not about time put in, it's about how good and how much you've dedicated yourself to getting better. So when I hear from some people and just say, oh, I'm not getting paid, I either have one of two reactions. I'm just like, well, yeah, of course you're not. You're still learning. You're an apprentice of this right now, and you're learning your craft. But there's also some people out there that I'm just like, really? Can't you, like, find a way to leapfrog your way in front of someone that might be able to give you that opportunity? And that's that's another major thing of a lot of people out there. They don't know how to get their names in front of people that should be helping them, because they do these tournaments, and this is not a knock against certain orgs, but if I'm trying to get out there, let's just say I'm a new guy, I'm trying to get out there, I'm working for a tournament org that is doing about 10 to 20 viewers, and that is perfectly good if I'm trying to learn how to do casting. But if I'm expecting that to be my way into a LAN cast or a way of starting to get this to be a job, not how it works, I'm afraid. Yeah. You know, I brought this up in numerous interviews so far. I said, it is not just about being talented. It is about making sure the right people know that you are talented. And if that's myself, if that's any other RLCS caster, if that's Cloudfuel, if that's anyone from Psyonix, get in front of them. Make them care about you. Because if you truthfully believe that you are good enough to start drawing a paycheck from this, go and do yourself a favor and believe in your own hype.
Yeah.
So there is a difference, in my opinion. It's a very small one, but if you are worth something to this community, make people care about you properly in a way that's sort of noticeable.
Oh yeah.
You know, action's not words, and money's a very good action to a lot of people out there.
That's true. That's true. Like 100%, that's true. And then knowing, again, just kind of knowing how to network yourself and knowing how to like really like market yourself is also a good thing as well. People like to see that stuff. So
yeah,
I'm definitely like 100% with that.
I mean, you talked about the Mad City LAN, about how you guys were really happy about that. Our first LAN experience was a little bit different in terms of myself, Johnny, and Gregan. Our first LAN experience was the Insomnia LAN, and this was before any European talent had ever been picked up for anything, and we were, in no short terms about it, furious because we thought we were good enough. So our entire goal with Insomnia was to make it the biggest thing we could possibly make it. And that's a good driving force, because we ended up getting, I think it was like close to 20, no, not 20,000. We had about 4,000 viewers, which at the time was the third most we ever had for any Rocket League LAN.
Yeah.
Or any sort of Rocket League event. So passion, we did that because we were passionate, and we thought we were passionate about our skills, we were passionate about the game, and that's what we managed to do with it. You know, take what you've got and really force it out there.
Yeah. That's like, I can't like push that more to where it's about like, it's understandable for people to put in hard work, but especially when you put it in front of the right people at the right times, it makes a world of difference. Yeah. I mean, I could sit here, we can have a talk about, it's cool to really like put a lot of work in terms of like doing these community tournaments and, you know, getting all the information for teams that are entered in there. But that kind of stuff also can lead to a burnout, which again, that's a whole nother topic. But when it comes time for you to do like an event, whether it's a LAN, a major, or whatever, that's the time where you really want to show all your stuff. I remember when I was looking at Achieves, he was doing X Games. He did X Games, and he did another event. I think it was at DreamHack Atlanta, and he was on Twitter, and he would just post pictures of all the notes he had. He had handwritten notes, and he would just have them laid out on the table. And he was like, I wrote basically all stats down for all the teams, and they're right here. And I stayed up all night doing this. And I was just like, that guy's going places.
Yeah.
So it's good to see people put in the effort just based off of passion, based off of wanting to get better. And
Achieves is definitely one that can overwork at times, but he has got the passion for it. He definitely does, and he's one or two tweaks away from probably being the best talent we have around.
Yeah.
He's very impressive with that work ethic.
Yeah. He really is, and again, it just shows. He went from well. I remember when I first started casting with him, it was with the summer of Gfinity. We were just doing those Friday Gfinity streams. It was me, him, Stacks, and Curtis. And he went from that. He started getting picked up for the major events, and it's just like watching your friend just like leave you to go do better things. It's like such a like great moment, but then you're also kind of sad because you want to go with them.
Yeah.
But it was really good to. I remember when he first when he came to step in. There was something that he was on an RLCS broadcast, but I think it was like a promotion relegation thing where they brought in a rival series guy to cast with a RLCS guy. But just kind of like seeing him up there, it was one of those like wow moments. Like that's my guy.
Oh yeah.
So we've definitely like gotten super off track.
It's fine. I mean, that's something that we can talk about with casting, though, is that if now I know for a fact, Dazerin, that if the servers are down and I have to talk to you for 20 minutes, you're my boy.
Easy.
Okay, we can do that 20 minutes. We can bring this podcast back up. We can talk for it. And that is another skill which I didn't know I needed until it happened to me.
Oh, yeah. Having to fill for time is...
Sucks.
It's
because you know what you are doing is the hardest thing ever. You are verbally treading water, but at the same time, you know that nobody that is watching appreciates what you are doing right now.
No, oh my god.
No one cares.
You're just sitting there and they're like, yeah, we're working on getting like Torment's controller plugged in. He had it plugged in to Squishy's PC. And we just need you guys to hold on. They're like talking to your ears. And then you're sitting next to like this guy and you guys are like, well, I don't know when we're getting back live, but we're gonna have to like make this work. And then Twitch chat is just, you can like, although you don't see it, you can feel the eyes of Twitch chat verbally murdering you on screen. They just like will find every piece of you and just tear it all apart. And
it can be,
oh my god,
it's fun. It definitely is fun, but part of it. And
yep.
It makes for a good story. It also makes for something you can rant about when you're allowed on someone else's podcast.
Yep. Oh my goodness, but it's I feel like that's another tip if for like anyone else watching, like definitely like learn how to talk about Rocket League for 20 minutes like straight.
And you don't have to talk about Rocket League. If it goes 20 minutes, by all means, talk about whatever you want to.
Yeah, I think so. At that point, yeah, you could kind of like afford to like.
There has to be like a click in your head that just goes, "Yeah, this is happening." All right, so you know something that I can do. You know what? My party trick. I'm gonna show it to you live.
No, don't do that. Don't do that one.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, okay, desperate times have caused for this.
Man, I've seen Reddit threads based on people just having to fill for time. It's terrible. But
be a subreddit about that. Just like a little stopwatch that goes on as well. We can have like a little world record amount of time. I think there was a CSGO event that they had to fill for like 2 hours. So they win automatically.
What the heck?
I think only CSGO talent could have pulled that off.
I couldn't do that one. Holy cow. Oh man. But starting to rotate back into this little write-up we have here. In terms of where play-by-play and color commentary are right now, where we have basically our current format, like, how do you feel just like straight up about this standard format? Do you think there's something missing to it, or do you think as time goes on, this is going to be something that is going to be a thing of the past?
I see this lasting for quite some time. Okay. I actually spoke about it after Gfinity. Once we just finished it, it was me, Doomsy, and Johnny all inside the pub, and we sort of discussed where we think it's going to go in the future. And it's probably going to go where most sports broadcasts and broadcasts in general go, which is as more players start to drop out and start to retire, they will inevitably be attempted to be picked up for broadcasting. So what it's probably going to end up being is that the very best talent we have around will move into play-by-play, and the players are going to probably move over to be our color commentators. That's the most likely way I see of it going. The other way is the conversation thing moves forward even further and starts to get perfected by a couple of different people, and we start seeing more of that. So that's sort of like my two trees, as to speak of, as to which way I think this could end up going. It could go both.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that's the most likely.
Okay. So thoughts on also this one is something I really want to talk about. Thoughts on the current level of analysis in Rocket League. Do you like it, or are we not utilizing all the information available to us?
It's passable at the moment. There are definitely a lot of things that can be done better. It's a lot of things I'm trying to do better. I realize that my complaints about it can only really be fixed if I myself try and sort it out. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, though, it's definitely like there's a lot of tools not available to us, so we're trying to make do with what we've got, which is what we see and statistics. But there's more to analysis than that. You've got video tagging out there, which is literally possibly the worst version of analysis I ever tried to do. Which is video tagging works is someone does a thing, a person stops the video and literally says what just happened. So for things like football or soccer, it is pass. All right, where did the pass go to? All right, I'm going to drag this across this little graph thing we have here. Did it succeed? No. Oh, it gets a big X on it. Try doing that for 90 minutes.
Yikes.
So it's something that's plausible, but we need to find someone that we are willing to pay to do that, because ain't no one doing that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that happen. We tried to do it one time with like an epic pin, but we didn't like do it like with the plays. We were just like, oh, he could pass it here, here, or here, but that takes a lot of time. And if you're not doing it, if it's if this is like a tournament broadcast, you're not gonna have enough time to do that.
Oh no, you're not getting that stuff live. I mean, did you see Monte Cristo's tweet the other day?
No, what was it about?
He showed what the Overwatch League, I believe it was the Overwatch League's casting booth setup was. Yes.
Yeah, I saw that.
Just having that sort of stat stuff available for us in game be so good, because there's so often, and you'll hear it during the RLCS broadcast, that we say, I think this guy has scored this many, or I think he's scored in every game so far. Where if we had it around, we could literally just go, I know.
Yep.
He has done this so far. He is this many goals away from a season best in any match. And that would be so much more useful, just to give us a little bit more depth. So I could turn around and just go, Pashy's put that one in. That's his 7th of the season, higher than anyone else on Vitality.
Yeah.
And, just give us a little bit more extra to work with, or, try and buy time should a game be over. I can just go, all right, well, here's a stat that we can talk about very quickly.
Yeah, and again, it also helps build up the players and make them look better, because we have these stats that we can now highlight for them on stream. And like you said, like the whole, he has the most goals out of any player this season, or he's doing this, and it's always good to find stats that we can utilize that we necessarily haven't had tools available to us. So I definitely, like, if we were able to get that Overwatch League set up, it'd be nuts. It'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just for live play.
Yeah.
Imagine what we could do if we had post-game stuff where, as an analyst, we have people literally sat there just going, all right, I have seen that this guy is either doing this really well or this really poorly. So we can highlight X player's inability to defend off the backboard, or why is he not going up the backboard to try and defend. But we don't have that right now. Instead, what we have right now is a lot of people watching, trusting that James and Gibbs are telling them the right information. We don't have any way of backing up what we're saying, which is a major problem. And it's a problem that we have across pretty much all tournaments in Rocket League, where we should be able to say, all right, this is something we want to highlight.
Yeah.
That'll be good. It's something that I believe only the G-Finity Elite Series has it only really tapped on so far, where we were given plays. They weren't even really our plays. We just got sold, all right, here's a play that we've chosen. This is something that our backroom staff has sort of noticed. Do you mind talking over it for us? But even that was pretty good, because I could just say, all right, we're going to look about Cheerio and how he likes to literally never defend.
Right.
He is going to go forward. He is going to smash. He's going to steal a boost. He's probably going to smash again immediately afterwards. But that then gives our viewer something to look at, because now they're going, all right, Cheerio is not just some guy in the rotation anymore. He's not just another blue player. They're now looking to Cheerio and just going, yeah, he's not back. I know why now. You know,
Yeah.
he's looking to do this rather. I mean, it's Rocket League. There's not too much going on in terms of variety and gameplay. So anything that can help us differentiate these players is really useful. Method, or X Method, I think they're called Run and Hide now, is a very good example of that. We were allowed to talk about them in a much different style because we could highlight a lot. Just say, he's not defending. He's literally stood in the middle of the field whilst his team is getting smacked over and over and over again, and he's still not moving because he's waiting for that ball to come to him. Once again, people are trusting my word of mouth over that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm right, but at the same time, it'd be nice just to go, here's the proof.
Exactly. Yeah, I can understand that too. And it also provides just like a sort of, it brings the player a level of individuality that separates them from everyone else. Like, everyone who watches a Rocket League stream, for the most part, they only see so much. Like, we can have player cams on there, but we could like have like a camera going over the entire amount of field, but it'll just show like people, especially if you're a casual viewer, you won't necessarily understand like the difference between JNaps and Kronovi or Rizzo. Like, you won't understand the difference between all of them. I sat there, I looked at their DreamHack finals replays against PSG, and that's the only time where I've saw something that I didn't see watching the stream from them, was it, just because like I looked at each one of their like individual player cams as I watched the games. I was like, okay, let's do this whole game looking at JNaps. Let's do this whole game as Rizzo and as Kronovi, and you just see them literally just set this man up. Like, JNaps cherry picks out the entire series, and I'm just like, how does he do this? And then I look at his teammates, I'm like, this is how they do this. They put in so much work to give this man the ball, and that stuff it's not able to make it onto the stream, and everyone just sees JNaps scores, and they're like, JNaps is the carry. And that might not necessarily
be the case. But why is JNaps the carry? What's going on around him?
Right, and they don't see that.
I mean, Rizzo's one I've wanted to talk about for a very long time in terms of how his style has changed and the way he plays now. The main thing I want to talk about when it comes to Rizzo is those bump plays. Because he pulls them off like maybe once every 2 series or once every series, but it's so clean and it's so obvious he's going for it now, because it's something that I've seen, and it's something that I would like to turn around to viewers and go, watch out for this.
Right.
That way a viewer can just go, hey, Shogun told me about this earlier. Rizzo is downfield. He's got about 20 boosts with him. He's not going to turn around, is he? He's going to go for the man.
Yep. And then again, it just starts kind of also giving players like their own. I'll say unofficial roles in a sense. They're like, oh yeah, I know that guy because he bumps a lot, or I know this guy because he's the shooter. His teammate always passes to him because he has this stat that helps him out. And then, did you see when they were doing overtime and they highlighted that he did this in this game? It was crazy. And, you know, it helps build a conversation, more talk about the players, and it helps give the players roles. And I think like the more tools, like, or once we have those tools available to us, then that's when we can really bring that level up to, or that extended level of analysis up to the viewers.
Yeah, and I think it'll make a much better viewer experience.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, we talked about stats a little bit, how there are like noticeable stats. Like, we have a ton of information to use on a post games, but is there any particular stat that you think that we should really be paying attention to?
There was one that I was using really often last season, but it's been a while since I needed to use it. Oh yes, my favorite stat is the game conversion stat, which is how often a team can go. So one that we use quite often now, and you see on the subreddit, is how often a team will take the first goal and go on to win the game. All right, well, let's go more in depth now. How many times can a team go 2 goals up Because 2 goals up in a professional Rocket League game should pretty much be it. But you can always see a very good pattern across the teams that go on to win whole tournaments, converting those 2 games, and teams that have those 2 goals up that end up dropping them. Despite, I mean, Team Secret was a very good example of it last season. They lost more games from 2 goals up than they won. That rings alarm bells to me because that doesn't say to me that they have a neutral game problem. They have a problem much deeper where they are not mature enough to say, all right, we've got 2 goals up here. Let's not make mistakes. Let's not double commit. And instead, they were still playing it as if they were losing. And you can do that 3 goals up, any of that sort of thing. That's a stat that I've really enjoyed starting to get into. But there's much more depth in there for people that are much smarter than me. People that cannot come like top 2,000 in the fantasy draft.
Yeah. Oh man, that fantasy's coming up soon. I gotta get ready for that. There's also been like talks about other particular stats. I had a conversation with a couple of people, Jasher and Jorby, earlier today about boost consumption, and we were talking about whether or not it's a useful stat at all. Well, what was going on? I think we had talked about how we think that boost consumption as a stat is probably one of the least useful stats.
It's pretty poor.
Yeah, but it does. I feel like someone could possibly make an argument for it. I just know that like there was like 1 week where there was just this big hype over boost consumption, and people were like, "Oh my god!"
It's because the Cookseer stat was there.
Yep. Yeah, that's what it
Cookseer
was.
using so little compared to everyone else.
Yep, you literally took that out of my mouth.
I am much more of a fan of if we would start using a stat talking about where the boost has been stopped, like who got which major boost. That one would be much more useful to me because that would give me a little bit more information as to how long a siege is taking place, who is in what position while sieges are taking place, and who's looking around for what whilst we get into the game. Now, does that tell us everything? No stat tells us everything, but having access to that would help us piece together the picture just that little bit better.
Yeah, I can see that. Siege. Yeah, especially like if we had like I want to say totals like boost totals at like specific timestamps. So it's just like you used to have like the entire like orange team has like this guy has 100, this guy has 80, this guy has 20, and then at like 134, but then also at 134 blue team just like took both of their corner boosts, so they're like in a bad spot. That
time spent boostless, that's a useful one.
Yeah, that could like that could explain a lot, because there are a lot of times where we've caught guys just like sitting around without boost, and it ends up leading to goals at times. So I do think that would be like a useful stat. But my one of my big things is one thing that I haven't really seen that can be measured by a number so far, and that's kind of like rotation. I think rotation is like a huge part of like Rocket League, or like competitive Rocket League, and I feel like it's the one thing that can't be measured by a number, but it has like one of the largest impacts on a game. I'm asking you if you think I'm wrong, and if you feel like there are other things that happen in a Rocket League game that numbers don't tell.
Yes. Rotation is very much a thing of you will notice it at the time. Like, it's very much a visual. Very obvious to see who's doing what, who made a mistake, who's being obviously told to hold back. It's also the main way that most teams concede in professional games. So a way of maybe seeing the amount of switchovers or how people are going about their rotation might be useful, but for most analysts out there, you can usually just see it at the time.
Yeah. Okay, I understand that. Yeah, for sure. No, it was just like something that I was thinking of, like especially when you bring out the whole numbers tells the story conversation, and when people are talking about, well, like I think I was like having this like hypothetical conversation with myself where I was like, okay, do numbers really tell the story of what happens in a game? For some games, yes. For other games, kind of not so much. I mean,
I think there is a way of making that very useful, which is whenever a double commit is used, you point out on a, like a little miniature map saying where both the double committing players started.
mm-hmm.
So one player did a half rotation, like 25% in the opponent's side. The other one was the third man. Now, if we have that, and we have that on a bit sheet, and we can do that for every single time they make that mistake, we can see, A, which duos are making that mistake, because it's usually the same two people, and where are they doing it from? Because it's also usually from the exact same spots to the exact same place. So it's not necessarily seeing where people are rotating to, because that's not going to tell us anything. That's just pretty much telling us where the ball is. But I feel like getting into a key stat like that would make that very useful.
Yeah, I think if there's a way that we can have that in front of everybody, it would help explain a lot of things that go on in the games. So, man, this was actually really good. Like, we actually went pretty like a lot more in depth than I thought we would, but we also took a lot less time than I thought we would. I thought we were going to be here for a lot
concise commentary at its finest.
Oh my goodness. Man, big takeaways here for me were definitely the conversational aspect and what's needed to be done for that, the kind of things we talked about, just like a little small snippets of things that can be used for a if for people who are new to casting, talking about stats, and also kind of like I want to say like the level of analysis and like the way that we can how the increase of production will also help increase analysis in major tournaments. I think that's like a really big one that I want to see like in the future. So it's been like super good conversations. One of the last things I'm gonna ask you, as RLCS is starting soon, give me 5 things that you're excited about.
All right, number 1, I'm there. That's a good start.
I knew that.
Yeah, you knew that one was coming. I haven't talked too egotistically throughout this, so we needed to get something in there.
Okay.
After that, I feel like G2 and NRG are going to be very interesting to see. Those two are the main teams that are going to be challenging C9. So I'm curious to how well they can do. I'm also very glad that we can just never talk about this G2 being inconsistent thing ever again.
Yeah.
It's been at least 8 months now since they when did they lose to Denial? Like that was the last time they were inconsistent.
That was like season 3. Holy cow.
Exactly. Just make them play in a major tournament. Don't tell them that they are playing in the Ting Open or anything like that. And they'll be fine. Put them only in major tournaments moving forwards.
That works.
So that's number 2. Number 3, I would give to the battle, I'm going to say, for the best player in Europe, which I think is going to be an all-out war between Fairy Peak and K-Dop. I would like to be proven wrong on that one and have like another player that can come in, but I think it's going to be between those two. Number 4, Europe being the most stacked tournament ever.
Yeah, that's pretty big. We were looking at that yesterday. I was like, oh my god, this is that's crazy. That's a bloodbath.
Yeah, that's gonna be nuts the whole way through. And number 5 is, now that we have a more concise structure together, and now that we don't have as many open qualifiers that decide who's in the RLCS, can anyone from the rival series now challenge for those 8 spots? Because the main challengers were there last season. The main challengers got through last season. I'm mostly talking about Fnatic there.
Yeah.
Now, can anyone else really rise up to Europe or North America, see a spot in there that they can take for themselves and go and take it? I think North America has got I think both spots that come up in the Rival Series promotion tournament are for grabs. There is possibilities there. Europe, it's going to be very difficult. It's also a major ask of how Envy and Excel are going to end up playing. Envy have sort of gone under the radar ever since DreamHack, which you can understand they need to get that sorted out. But I think iIgnite, you have never met competition until you've met iIgnite.
That's true.
That man has got the murder face going on when he plays. So that any sort of problems that they had beforehand, I think he will sort out. I think you can almost say he's like, give him some time, he'll be their default leader. But Excel have been shaky even since Marky came in, so there's a possibility that unless they can sort this out, that spot could be up for grabs.
Okay,
those are my 5.
That's a hot 5. I mean,
that is a hot 5. That is a good season coming up here.
Any season with Shogun's a good season, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh
my goodness.
Give me a second here. Oh, it's getting hot.
You had something that you wanted to say to...
I pretty much went on that tangent earlier.
Okay.
The only major thing I would add to that is an example, which is I worked an event quite a while ago, just an online one, as a way of keeping going. And the guy I was casting with sort of turned around to me and just went, "Oh, you're doing the RLCS, how can I get myself in there?" And I was sort of just like, his question at the time was, when will I get in? And I had to be diplomatic, but it was one of those things of RLCS doesn't know who you are because you're not pushing yourself out there. You're expecting word of mouth to do it for you.
Yeah.
You know, blow your own trumpet, get yourself out there. Remember that you need to represent yourself, and other commentators will come and help you, but at the same time you're also in competition with those other commentators.
Yeah.
So you need to be your own best friend out there. Commentators need to work together to improve their game, but they also need to stay individually focused, because that's how you improve, that's how you look after yourself, that's how you start earning from this. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people out there that are doing this for the fun of it, but you also want to get paid for having fun. There's nothing better than getting paid for having fun.
That's true.
You know, so go and do that for yourself, please. Work your ass off. Send things to me. Send your latest cast to me and say, "Yo, what did I do?" I don't care if it was your first cast or your 200th cast. If you're sending that to me and just go, "How can I get better?" You want to get better? Cool. Awesome. Right. And also, you've got me just going, "Oh, hey, I've now got this guy on my radar." You know, get yourself in there. Do yourself a favor.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I met a lot of people just from reaching out to me to do events as well, and it's always cool to build up that repertoire because you never know. You never know. It's always good. And the casting scene has always been very helpful towards each other for the most part. We've always helped each other out here and there. I approached Shogun literally today, wrote this up today. I was like, "Are you interested?" He's like, "Yeah, let's do it." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I was, I'm a little bit busy over the next few days, but you caught me. I was supposed to be doing a show today for Gfinity, but I kind of got snowed in, and England just shuts down whenever there's any sort of snow.
Oh, Lord.
So today was a good day for it.
Lucky me. Easy peasy. Thank you so much, Shogun, for taking the time to come here and sit with me today. Have a talk about Rocket League commentary. I appreciate it so much, guys. You can follow
an example of what I want to see. You're doing work and you're asking people to come and help you out of it.
I appreciate it.
You know, it would be very hypocritical of me to go on that tangent and then not come and help you out with it. You know? So keep this going, lads. Keep this going.
Yeah, all day. We got it. There will definitely be more discussions to come, ladies and gentlemen. But for Shogun, for my stream, I am Dazerin. You can follow us on Twitter at the Twitter handles that are under our names. Shogun's is 1 pixel larger than everyone else's. He made me say that.
Yes.
This show is sponsored by Shogun. So make sure you give him a good follow on Twitter. And everyone else, have a good night. VOD will be uploaded to YouTube shortly after this. But this is going to be Dazerin signing off. See you guys later.